Welcome to the Weekly Leader with your host, David Guerra.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of The Weekly Leader, and I am your host, David Guerra. You know the premise. I take one notable event from the past week, break it down, and then I add my leadership spin to it. Next, I take one leadership concept, break it down, and I also add my leadership spin to it. Now with that out of the way, let's get this week's episode started. So in the news, obviously the monarchy still has a well-established dominance over the world stage right now. However, there are plenty of other situations playing out all over the planet. And there's always something happening, and there is always something happening that could have been, done in a better manner or delivered with greater authenticity or genuineness. But yet, those that are supposed to be leaders fail to take responsibility or lack the wherewithal of holding themselves accountable, and those that they are supposed to be leading accountable as well. Case in point, in Ukraine this past week, the Ukrainian forces regained control of land that the Russian forces previously held. In doing so, the Ukrainians were able to verify the rumors of Russian atrocities committed during their occupation of that part of Ukraine. Now, the Ukrainian forces discovered and unearthed a mass grave. It's not uncommon to find mass graves in areas of conflict, especially when law of war does not seem to apply. And while I am not in any way excusing any undue pain or suffering caused by any belligerent in any conflict to the local civilians, there are some things that will apply, especially when it comes to mass graves. Mass graves, unfortunately, is one of the things that it happens. Now, mass graves are efficient in controlling any possible spread of disease due to the rotting and decay of human bodies that lay out in the open. In unfolding uncertain situations, when the ability to halt the acts of war so that bodies can be collected, properly handled, and conduct dignified burial ceremonies can be held is not just possible. It just not can happen. And again, I'm not condoning nor am I excusing the actions of any nation that undertakes any action or activity that will lead to mass graves. No. Now, however, in this case, the latest mass grave found in the Ukrainian forest, it also served to confirm the atrocities committed by Russian forces. You see, unearthed were the remains of bodies that either had their hands and their feet bound and then tortured, and torture victims were found among the other bodies in the Izium, Ukraine mass grave. Already, the finger pointing has begun. The Russians say it was staged by the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians say all of this was at the hands of the Russians. And while the pendulum is swinging towards the Russians as the culprits, and in the end, someone will have to pay the price for committing the atrocities. Now the question is who? Who will be held accountable? Who, if anyone, will accept the responsibility for the horrific acts that caused the human beings to end up in that mass grave? See, at some point, a leader will need to step up and accept responsibility, but more than likely, that will never come. See, thus proving that these leaders are not leaders, they're bullies, and bullies are not leaders at all. Now, if the act of some rogue, power-hungry military field commander, then if this was caused by that person, then where and when in the chain of command is someone going to step up and say, here's what happened, and here's what we're going to do about it, and this is how that field commander will be handled? Again, while many of the individuals that are at fault may never be found or brought to justice, and up the chain of command all the way up to old Vlad himself, no one may never admit anything because they lack the leadership capabilities and capacity, and the capacity to say the buck stops here, or should I say the ruble stops here. Good or bad, there are leaders that have to accept responsibility for their actions. Up and down the chain of command, leaders are looked up as someone that is fair, honorable, and just. And when those individuals are no longer seen as fair, honorable, and just, then they are nothing more than bad managers. Now, this is because leaders are expected to lead. They are expected to lead by example. They lead others by example. Now, managers, especially the bad ones, can be counted on to manage others to accomplish the goals assigned to them, through the use of fear and intimidation. Now, any manager that can only get the job done through the use of fear and intimidation can never be any kind of a leader. A manager that gets the job done through fear and intimidation while delivering on their assignment is also one that everyone must watch carefully, as they know they can never behave, as they know that they can behave in impunity, but also know that there is nothing anyone can do to stop them because they're allowed to behave with such impunity. Those are the dangerous kind of managers. Those kinds of dangerous managers have a very, very nasty habit of attracting others just like them. However, the leaders that can accept responsibility and hold themselves accountable are the leaders that can stand up to and defeat those bad managers. As leaders that are not afraid to step up, accept responsibility, and hold themselves accountable, they know that many more will follow them rather than to follow the bad managers. Acceptance, responsibility. Now, let's take a look at this week's leadership concept. And this week, I am talking about teamwork. And teamwork making great teams. See, great teams become great because they know how to work together and resolve issues together. As I previously mentioned, it is all about communication and working together. However, not all teams are perfect. There has never been a perfect relationship, personal or professional, and that's a fact. So please, do not kid yourself into thinking otherwise. Now, when discourse arrives, there is a constant among great teams, and great teams do not hold grudges with each other. They may with outsiders, but not internally. See, great teams work as one cohesive unit. Working as one cohesive unit means that there is no time to hold grudges. Grudges are held by teams against other teams. You've seen this in sports, and even then it's just called rivalries. Now, for example, let's look at personal relationships. If there is a relationship between an outsider and my family team, this is the standard, and this is the standard that is shared early and reinforced often. If you make any of my children or my wife angry, upset, or heaven help you if you make any of the four of them cry, rest assured what we have is far from a simple rivalry. And with me, please know it's a full-on grudge. However, internally, to the team, there is no room for holding grudges. As I mentioned, we don't have time for that. Internally, we must resolve the issue, face it head on, but never letting it get to the point of a grudge. See, holding a grudge against anyone in your immediate group, team, or family is not healthy in the sense that the group cannot move forward. The team cannot grow, and ultimately resentment does set in, and that is a quick path to the level of dysfunction that leads to nothing positive getting done. Now, in a professional setting, the same applies. Either you form a rock-solid team that no one or nothing can break. Think about a Super Bowl winning football team, or better still, think of a United States Army infantry unit. Nothing can stop them. So either you succeed or you fail. If you fail, think like Enron, think like MCI, think of any corporation that took advantage of its team members only to make the top tier group the only ones to succeed and damn everyone else. See, when it comes to holding grudges in personal or professional relationships, there is a fine line, and I get it. However, know that there is also a limit to what you will tolerate and what can no longer be tolerated. And when the relationship ends, holding grudges is still not beneficial to everyone or anyone of that group. See, again, the individual with an immature mindset will hold grudges because, again, like children, they are not mature enough to move beyond the only reactionary reaction they know, and that is holding a grudge. It will take work, it will be difficult, but the time to grow is now, and working together, you can eradicate grudges. Let's get to work. And on that note, I want to thank you for watching this week's episode, and I invite you back for the next Weekly Leader. And hey, I also invite you to like, subscribe, and share this episode so that everyone gets a chance to see what's going on here. And I do invite you. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that share button. Have a great day. Take care.